Hi and welcome back to Garden Ninja. Today's video guide is going to show you how you can make Comfrey tea, which is a homemade organic plant feed that you can make in your own gardens. It's relatively cheap to do and it's got amazing benefits for your plants. I'm going to show you how to do that today. So come on, let's get cracking. If you've not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, make sure you hit the red subscribe button below, where you'll get access to over 120 garden design hints, tips and hacks. And best of all, it's free, so subscribe today. Now, Comfrey tea is a really easy way to make your own fertilizer at home that's both organic and really good value, because once you've planted your Comfrey, it comes back year after year. Now, I planted this Comfrey last year, and this is Comfrey Bocking 14, which is a sterile form of Comfrey. And what that means is, although it puts on these beautiful flowers, it's not going to self-seed everywhere, so it's been bred to be sterile. So the only way that you can plant this is either using plants that you've already bought or divided, or bare roots. You won't be able to plant this from seed, but it does mean that you can control its size. So Comfrey is an absolutely wonderful plant for making tea and fertiliser from, because it manages to extract loads of nutrients from the ground that other plants simply can't access. And what we do when we make the tea is we're taking the leaves of the Comfrey that contain all these rich nutrients, and then we're going to steep them in water and extract them. The interesting thing with Comfrey is it has huge levels of potassium. So if you've got fruits and vegetables in your garden that are really high feeders that need a lot of feed, then this is an excellent way to feed them pretty much on a budget. So with any fertiliser, you've got three main nutrients: nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, and sometimes they're referred to as shoots, roots and fruits. So nitrogen is for leafy growth, stuff above the ground. You've then got phosphorus, which is for roots, things under the ground, and then potassium, which Comfrey is crazy high in, and that's all about fruits, flowers and produce. So you're going to need a few key bits of equipment to make Comfrey tea, but it really is super easy and cost effective. The first is obviously some Comfrey plants, and I planted these as plug plants last year, and you can probably harvest them 2 or 3 times a year. They're really fast growers, so even if you cut them back to near ground level, they'll still come back. The second thing you need is a container with a lid, and that's really important. This is going to be your vessel to make the tea, and I'm going to explain exactly why the lid is so important a bit further on. You also are going to need some gloves, because Comfrey does have slight hairs on the leaves and some people, they irritate them, so wear gloves just to be sensible. And then last but not least, a sharp clean pair of secateurs to cut the Comfrey back and to start cutting off the leaves. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut back, probably leave a third, but take off all of these stems. There is no point stripping the leaves and leaving blank stems. They're just going to die back and they look unsightly. So you want to cut off the whole stem. And you can be quite brutal. I'm going to pop them down there till I'm ready for them. So all I'm going to do now is literally peel off the leaves. I don't want the stalks for this, the goodness is in the leaves. However, I can add these stalks to either beds as a mulch left on top, or the compost bin to help speed up and activate the compost bin. So you can be quite brutal, just pull the leaves off. There we go. Some people talk about delicately layering them, I just cram them in. So the next step is to fill that full of water just to cover the leaves. However, before I do that, I told you that we needed to talk about the lid. Now the lid does two things. The first thing it does is keep the moisture in. So once we've put the water in, we put the lid on and it helps it brew. Without it, it's going to evaporate and you're just going to be left with dry leaves. The second thing it does is stop the smell. This stuff is going to stink. However, you've got to bear in mind that it's going to do loads of good for your garden. So try and put up with the stink if you can. But what I'm going to do is, with a permanent marker, is mark up what this is, because I don't want any children, pets, drunk friends on a Friday night finding this and opening it to see what's inside. So keep it out of the way of anyone that can't be trusted. It's not poisonous, but it's not going to be the nicest thing to get a lungful of. And there we go, that's the last leaf. Now some people talk about stuffing it, putting a brick on it to weigh it down. I just tend to fill the bucket so the water can sit comfortably beneath the top. You don't want it spilling out. Once all your comfrey is in, nothing more but water, and I prefer to use rainwater, so this is my water butt. But you just fill the container until the leaves are covered. Once you've put your water in and your lid, put it somewhere out the way in the shade, and we're going to leave it for 3 weeks, in which time it's all going to break down and create this rather pungent but beautifully nutritious fertilizer tea. So it's been about 6 weeks since I've made this comfrey tea, and I'm back in the garden ready to reveal it. So let's take a look. So let's take a little peek. Ooh, look at that. It's looking rather delicious. So once you open your tea, you're going to notice that distinctive putrid smell, but also there's going to be a load of sort of half rotten leaves, and I just use an old twig or a cane just to scoop those out, because they're going to clog up your watering can. So hopefully with a bit of a twist, here we go, you can kind of see all of that. So once you've scooped out any large bits of debris, what I tend to do is I use one of these, which is a garden sieve or a griddle, and then I've got this container here that I've recycled. It's an old AdBlue container from my truck, been rinsed out. I then take a funnel, and what we want to do on a stable surface is decant this into here, but using the griddle to help remove any large particles. Now, it depends on how you're going to use your watering can. If you want to use a fine rose to water in this feed, then you need to remove as much debris as possible. If, like me, you're a bit lazier and you just use a watering can without an attachment, you can get away with a few more bits. Well, as I said, that can all go in the compost heap. Now, another good question is, how much comfrey tea do you use in your watering can? And as a good rule of thumb, use 1 part comfrey liquid to 10 parts water. Now, it does depend on how rich the comfrey mix is, but if you use that 1 to 10, you can't go wrong. A lot of the time, people tend to overfeed the plants, which can actually do more harm than good. And what also tends to happen is you waste lots of feed because it simply leaches out of the soil. So if you go for the 1 to 10 ratio, then you know you're pretty much spot on. So there we go, my super easy way to make organic comfrey tea to help feed your plants in the garden. If you've liked this video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel by hitting subscribe below, hit the bell for notifications, and check out my blog, gardenninja.co.uk, where there are hundreds of how-to guides to help you make your gardens awesome. I've been Garden Ninja, happy gardening.